Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pushes for more support in its war with Russia at the second meeting of the European political community in Moldova. The European Parliament casts doubt on whether Hungary's populist government will be able to effectively lead the EU's rotating council presidency during its term next year.
Love meets diplomacy as Jordan's Crown Prince Hussein marries the daughter of a rich and influential Saudi businessman.
In this family photo, it's important to see who is and who's not in it. In total, 47 European leaders, and in the centre, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. This was the second meeting of the European political community that aims to boost the unified response to Russia's war in Ukraine. Moscow was, of course, not invited. More unexpected, though, was the absence of Turkey's President Erdogan, who pulled out at the last minute. Although nothing concrete is coming out of the meeting, it's a great opportunity for rare high-level encounters, like this chat between Zelensky and Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić, who maintains close ties with Moscow. The main topic of discussion was how to give security guarantees to Ukraine. Zelensky is openly pushing for NATO membership.
Every doubt we show here in Europe is a trench that Russia will definitely try to occupy. Whether these doubts are about vital security steps or doubts about our unity or maybe about our ability to meet the challenges of our time, every doubt brings more insecurity.
But the path to NATO membership for Ukraine won't be easy, particularly since some members of the military alliance don't support the idea. And also because it's a major red line for the Kremlin and could be a card to play during any eventual peace negotiations.
I think this is important to give Ukrainians hope and also show Russia that we are behind Ukraine and Ukraine's place is in NATO. Of course, everybody understands that this can't happen while the war is going on, but to have a very clear signal that Ukraine belongs to NATO and we are behind Ukraine is important.
The choice of holding the summit in Moldova was also seen as a message to the Kremlin. It was held just 20 kilometers away from the border and also follows the country receiving EU candidate status in June last year at the same time as Ukraine.
Next step is now to try to shape a consensus around what exactly to offer to Ukraine within the next 6 weeks, when NATO leaders will meet in Vilnius, Lithuania. While France made some steps in terms of wording, calling for Ukraine to be granted a clear path to membership, this is not the case for countries like Germany, which is still cautious to provide any concrete timetable. Efi Koutsakosta, Euronews, Moldova.
The Russian military command has likely ordered Chechen Republic head Ramzan Kadyrov's forces to begin offensive operations in Ukraine following the withdrawal from Wagner Group forces from Bakhmut, says the Institute for the Study of War. Kadyrov claimed that Chechen forces received a new order and assumed responsibility over the Donetsk region front line. He added that Chechen forces Akhmat transferred to the Mariinka direction, southwest of Donetsk city. Kadyrov noted that the Russian military command ordered Russian forces Rosgvardia and Chechen Akhmat forces to begin offensive actions along the front line in Zaporizhia and Kherson region as well. Kadyrov said that there are 7,000 Chechen personnel in Ukraine. The Institute for the Study of War says if these claims are close to accurate, his forces will not be able to mount multiple significant offensive operations successfully. Now, the claimed return of Chechen forces to offensive operations would break Kadyrov fighters from a nearly year-long hiatus from participating in high-intensity combat operations. Chechen forces have been largely operating in the rear after participating in the battles for Mariupol, Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. The Institute for the Study of War says the Kremlin may be attempting to reintroduce Kadyrov soldiers as the main offensive force following the culmination of Wagner forces and their withdrawal from the front lines. The Kremlin may also be attempting to re-emphasize federal authority over Chechen forces.
Finding a way to bring Ukraine closer to the Atlantic Alliance was the focus on Thursday of the informal meeting of NATO foreign ministers in Oslo. In a press conference, the NATO Secretary-General recalled the commitments and actions already undertaken by Kyiv's allies, stressing that it is necessary to create a framework of security guarantees to prevent history from repeating itself.
It's a pleasure for me to gather you here in Oslo.
We don't know when the war ends, but we must ensure that when it does, we have credible arrangements in place to guarantee Ukraine's security in the future and to break Russia's cycle of aggression. If President Putin wins in Ukraine, it will make the world more dangerous. It will send a message that when authoritarian leaders use military force, they get what they want, and that will also make us more vulnerable.
Progress on long-term financing and the security plan for Ukraine is expected to be made at the next NATO summit in Vilnius in July. Stoltenberg hoped that the blockade to Sweden's accession would be overcome by the time of the meeting in Lithuania. Sweden's accession is pending the agreement of Turkey and Hungary.
The European Parliament doubts whether Hungary's populist government will be able to lead the EU's rotating council presidency next year. It says this is because of a major decline in democratic standards and the rule of law. On Thursday, MEPs approved a parliamentary resolution calling on the EU Council to find a proper solution, which could mean preventing Budapest from taking the lead. Hungary has been under intense scrutiny for years now. Last year, Brussels decided to freeze most of its European funds due to corruption risks and what it calls problems with democracy.
We have been saying this autumn in this parliament through a resolution, we have had a huge majority in this parliament to say that Hungary is no more a complete democracy and is in a hybrid system between democracy and autocracy. So that's the reason why we are very worried that a presidency should be held in these conditions.
Prime Minister Viktor Orban's cabinet is preparing to take over the rotating presidency in mid-2024 for a period of 6 months. The role includes chairing and planning meetings, but also representing the EU as a whole to the outside world. MEPs believe that Orban's vow to maintain ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin and his appetite for blocking common EU goals make him unfit for the role. They're now urging the Council to stop the Hungarian EU presidency, while the Parliament says it could limit its cooperation during Budapest's term.
Knowing Mr. Orban that he's going to use this for his own purposes, to address his own audience, ignore everybody else. And I don't think that the European Union is the campaign team for Mr. Orban. We've allowed him to do that for the last 13 years. So enough is enough.
The Hungarian government rejects criticism from the European Parliament, though, insisting that it will go ahead with its presidency plans.
My favourite. Good morning. The European Parliament does not respect European values, no democracy, no rule of law. First, they are constantly attacking the free elections of Hungary, and they don't accept the result what the Hungarian citizens in the name of democracy chose as a government. Secondly, they don't respect rule of law, because here the European Parliament has no role to play.
The resolution of the European Parliament is non-binding, meaning the EU Council doesn't have to abide by it. So far, it's refused to discuss the issue of the Hungarian presidency.
Year-on-year inflation in the Eurozone fell 0.9 of a percentage point in May compared with the previous month to 6.1%, according to preliminary data published on Thursday by the EU Statistics Office Eurostat. Similarly, core inflation, which excludes energy and unprocessed food from the calculation because they are more volatile, also slowed its growth last month from 7.3% in April to 6.9% in May. However, economists warn that it will be many months before consumers see more normal levels of inflation reflected on shop labels. Although prices are rising more slowly, they are adding to the already high costs driven in part by Russia's war in Ukraine. Moreover, Eurostat also indicated that Europe's unemployment rate fell by 0.1 of a percentage point in April from March to 6.5%. Inflation rates fell in Germany, France and Italy.
Serbian tennis star Novak Djokovic is standing by his comment that Kosovo is at the heart of Serbia. Those are the words he wrote on a TV camera lens after his first round victory in the French Open. The act drew a rebuke from France's sports minister, who said his comments were not appropriate on the field of play, where she said a healthy neutrality should be maintained.
I'm aware that a lot of people will disagree, but it is what it is. It's something that I stand for. So that's all. Drama-free Grand Slam. I don't think it can happen for me. I guess that drives me as well.
And the world number 3 seems to be right about the drama. He missed the Australian and US Opens in 2022 because he never received shots of the COVID-19 vaccine. And when he returned to Australia this year, he faced questions about his father appearing with a group of people waving Russian flags. Love and geopolitics tied the knot in Jordan when Crown Prince Hussein, the eldest son of King Abdullah II, married Saudi architect Rajwa Al Saf, daughter of a rich businessman close to the Saudi royal family. The wedding, a historic 3-day event in Jordan, was attended by numerous members of the world's royalty, as well as political leaders and powerful businessmen. Among the guests were the First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden, the King and Queen of the Netherlands, the King Emeritus of Spain, Juan Carlos I, who appeared alongside Queen Sophia, and Prince William of England and his wife Kate, who arrived in secret. For them, as well as for the Jordanian people, the marriage represents the continuity of a kingdom acknowledged for its stability. Observers say it refreshes the image of the monarchy after a number of palace disputes. It could also be the beginning of a rapprochement between Jordan and its wealthy Saudi neighbour that could translate into investment and prosperity.